Hello, my name is Shaden and welcome back to my channel. Last week, I talked about a passion project that I picked up, which was portraits of a photographer on black and white film. And I kind of talked about how as a photographer, when I capture portraits, I'm more into capturing like their character or a feeling or emotion from that individual versus just capturing pure beauty or glamour. I feel like in this day and age of AI, it's easy to get like a picture perfect photo. Even if you don't take a picture perfect photo, you can throw it into like an AI app and it'll generate like perfect skin tones and perfect clothing, perfect hair. There's all this controversy right now in the photography world of this AI company that just released headshots where you can just upload a photo from your camera on your phone and it looks like this like super high-end professional headshot that you would spend like several $100s for, and it's perfect. And I love how right now we're kind of steering clear of like AI, or like whenever like AI perfect photos come up, it kind of gives us like the ick. We kind of look at it and go, nah, next. I really love that. And with film, it's very hard to capture, I guess, a picture perfect photo. There's a lot of flaws when it comes to film. First of all, you have like dust particles while you're scanning, you have light leaks, you have like all these imperfections of like the exposure, you have grain, you have all these like what I would call perfect imperfection, a lovely oxymoron. And when it comes to capturing people on this type of film, it's like you have to just capture the realness or the authenticity of that person. You can't really hide behind AI perfection tools. I guess you could, but I rather not. And that's why I love shooting film. And when I shoot portraits, I aim to shoot the person's essence and the character to invoke feelings or emotion. And I believe there are 5 major elements that create a wonderful portrait. It's nothing to do with beauty and everything to do with emotion. And that is joy, peace, playfulness, wonder, and vulnerability. If you haven't seen that video, you can click here or here. But today I'm bringing you guys with me capturing Jess. I met Jess a few months ago. We were shooting at the same wedding and immediately I knew that this was someone that was my friend all along. Have you ever met someone that you're like, how aren't we friends yet? How am I like in my adult years and I've never met you before, but when I have met you, it seems like I've known you for a very long time? Jess is someone that was like that. Immediately, we just connected. And when I was doing this passion project of portraits of photographers on film, she was someone that I definitely wanted to capture. On Instagram, she goes by the name imagesby.jess. She is from Kauai, but now she lives in Portland, Oregon, and she does photography out there. So please contact her if you need a photographer out in Portland, Oregon. When I first met her, I took a look at her stuff, and immediately I go, whoa. Talent. She is someone that captures emotion, the authenticity, the feeling of the event, not just picture perfect, polished images. She captures images that evoke emotion. But now I want to capture her with that same type of mentality of capturing an emotion or a feeling or just the essence or character of that person. When you look at the work from Jess, you see these images and immediately like there's so much feeling to these images that it kind of has this like, it kind of evokes this emotion of like, I know this person. Like she just captures them so well that like somehow like you know them or you've met them before, or that you were right there in that situation. Like all the feelings and all the vibes like come to surface of which she's capturing of that day. Her images are personal and super deep. So when I messaged Jess about this passion project, she immediately said yes. And so we kind of coordinated a day that she was back on Kauai. And that morning I went to go pick her up. I just wanted to pick up coffee and shoot right away. But instead we kind of sat and we talked story for like, I don't know, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. I think if this was like one of my first shoots ever, I would be like in my mind, I'd be all anxious. Like, oh my gosh, we need to go outside quick because we're losing light here. But I think sometimes when you're especially capturing a person's like character or essence or like their emotion or feelings, that person is way more important than the light of the day. And this was the first time I really got to sit down with Jess and kind of talk story with her. Sometimes as photographers, we want to get to work right away, especially if we're shooting in the morning, because you know the best time to take photos, in my opinion, is kind of like early morning or late evening. And sometimes when you go to a shoot in the morning, you want to get started right away, because the later you shoot, like the worse the lighting gets. kind of. But when I'm capturing someone's portrait, I kind of want to like talk story with them first. I kind of want to get to know them first. And this was the first time Jess and I actually sat down and kind of talked story. The last time we saw each other was months ago, and that's the first time we met, and we were working on the job, and it was like after the job, we're like, okay, bye, see you. And I never saw her since. So this was the first time we got to sit with each other and kind of talk story. If I was kind of new at this, I would just have picked up the coffee and get shooting right away. But after shooting, I don't know, at this point maybe thousands of people, I've come to realize that kind of getting to know the person is way more important than trying to get the perfect photo in the perfect light. Why do I say that? Because when I'm capturing portraits, like I said, I want to capture the essence of the person. I want to capture emotion, not just the beauty of the person or the picture perfect situation or environment. I want to capture who they are. And in order for me to capture who they are, I need to get to know them. And so this 30 to 45 minutes of us sitting down and drinking coffee together and talking story is way more valuable than, I guess, shooting at the best lighting. It's very intimidating getting your photo taken from someone else. And so when you sit down with someone and you kind of break this tension, or you kind of get comfortable with each other, it's going to really show in your images. As a photographer, I think images are made to be printed, images are made to be held, and not just seen on a screen. So what I love to do after making images is pick out my favorite ones and printing them, and just looking at them and saying, okay, I like this about this image, I don't like this about that image. Okay, next time I want to do this about this image. That way, this kind of betters my craft. Not because I want to come to a point where I'm taking perfect images, but I always want to be in a space where I'm trying to get better at my craft. All right, so the first image that we took was just right outside of the coffee shop, and I told Jess to just sit down on the steps and just pretend like you're working. I didn't want to do anything too intrusive because, like I said, I think getting your photo taken from someone that is kind of new to you can be very intimidating. So the first few photos was kind of like a warm-up, I guess. But I do like how this photo turned out to be. I really like the lines in this photo. I'm someone that really likes to capture like leading lines and just like symmetry. So I like all these lines in this images. You see like the rooftop lines, you see the lines on the stairs, you see the lines on the railing kind of pointing towards her. There's a few things that I kind of wish I did. I kind of wish I angled it a bit more, I guess, in front of her versus all the way to the side. Or I kind of wish I moved all the way more to like my left. But I did take another image, and I think I like this image a lot because the leading lines is kind of like leading right to her face. And I said, okay, work on your computer and smile. And again, it's kind of like we're kind of warming up here with these first few images, but I kind of like how this photo turned out to be. I like how the grass in the back is darker and she kind of pops out on her white shirt. The day before, I told her to wear something white or something bright because when I'm taking black and white photos, I think it's important that the subject kind of stands out from the background. And usually I tell my subjects to wear like a bright shirt or like a white shirt. Try not to wear anything with like patterns on them because it can be kind of muddy. And then the last photo that we took at this location is her standing up. And I just basically said, okay, just stand up and look cute. And that's what she exactly did here. Again, I love the lines in this photo. I love the lines of the staircase. I love the lines on the top of the trim of the roof. I love how the railing is kind of going up towards her face. The only thing I kind of wish this photo didn't have was the person in the background. No shade to that person, but I should have waited just a little bit until that person was kind of out of the frame. Of course, that person has every right to be there. I'm not saying that you ruined that photo. It was my fault because I didn't wait for that person to get out of that photo. This next photo, there was these two beautiful coconut trees that were kind of leaning towards like the ground. And so again, talking about leading lines, I love using leading lines that go directly to the subject. So I told Jess, go over there in like the middle of these two coconut trees and just spin. So she did that. Thank you, Jess, for trusting me. But this photo came out so good. I love how this photo turned out. She's like dead center in the middle of these two coconut trees. At first, when I was like just about to take this photo, I was a bit lower, and you have to be very careful when you're taking photos of like someone at the horizon, especially if they're like kind of further away. Because if they're like kind of small, like, you know, in this photo, it's kind of backed up a bunch. If her head is like the same line as the horizon, it kind of looks like the horizon is like cutting her head. So I had to kind of go a little bit higher and shoot kind of down so that the horizon was kind of either really, really high above or really, really down below. And I decided to go the horizon really, really high above so it wasn't nowhere near her head. All right, so the next photo, I told Jess to go sit on one of these rocks. I don't always like taking photos of the subject dead center in the middle of the image. I kind of like it like kind of off-centered, either like on the left or in the right. Like I kind of use the rule of thirds when it comes to shooting people, but for some reason I thought this worked super well of her sitting in the middle. Again, leading lines here. Look at the leading lines here that I absolutely love. The mountain, there's a line going down towards her, and then there's that rock wall in the middle of the image. That rock wall is like, again, going towards her, and then the rocks from the bottom left is kind of going up towards her, and then kind of the rocks on the top, on the middle right, is kind of going down towards her. And when we were there that day, the sun was already kind of high, but when she was kind of like, when we were kind of walking around, you know, looking for a different location to shoot, her white top was really glistening in the photo, and I just knew that like it would pop out in front of that mountain, that dark mountain. And I really love how this turned out. I really love how that chicken was there too. If I could do this again, I would probably either wait till the chicken was like more to the left, so it was like kind of in the rule of thirds area, or the chicken was all the way out of the frame. Because now that I'm looking at it, the chicken is kind of distracting. I kind of would have waited until that chicken was out of the frame. Of course I could go and Photoshop it and take the chicken out, but that's the beauty of shooting film. It's like, you get what you get. Okay, the next image, I knew it was going to be very difficult to capture because the light already was so bright. I think at this time it was like maybe 10 o'clock. So some of the brightest like light is obviously the sky, but also the ocean. And so when she was kind of in the area, the highlights and the shadows were so strikingly, I guess, apart. But again, her shirt was really bright and glistening in the sun. So I told her just to stand in front of a shadow, an object of a shadow, which was that little tree right there. You can kind of see, even the log that she was standing on was super bright and reflective. That light was already like beaming into my camera. So when I exposed for this image, I'm shooting all this on manual exposure. I exposed for the log. I wanted the log to be perfect exposure, or I was metering for the log. So I guess here in this image, I was metering for the highlights. So when I do that, when I meter for the highlights, that means all the shadows are gonna be super, super dark. You can kind of look at this image and go, this is super underexposed. I guess so, but I like the vibe. I like how the light is on the log. I like how there's like just a small light, a little highlight on her face that kind of just shows her face and shows the camera. I like how the wave crashed in the background, giving off some more kind of highlight lights. One thing that I was really surprised was that the clouds were visible, because I remember when I took this photo, it was so bright that like I could barely even open my eyes and look at the sky because it was so bright. So I definitely, I guess, underexposed this photo, maybe too much. I probably should have maybe brought in maybe half a stop or so. All right, so the next photo, we decided just to use that log that was right there, and I had Jess sit down, and I know she sat down and she was kind of already kind of posing herself, and I forgot that she was a photographer in that moment. So I'm like, okay, so can you like sit this way and put your hand that way? And then she didn't like give me a look like, how dare you, I'm a photographer, I know what I'm doing. But as I was kind of telling her what to do, I could already see that she was already kind of moving to a position that was already photographable, I guess. So I actually was like, oh, never mind, you know exactly what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing, you're perfect. Sometimes in photography, I think when you have your subject move a certain way or pose a certain way, they're so concerned about like if you put your hand up there, they're putting their hand like this and they're stiff because they're like just following instructions. So what I do lately is like just sit down and just be comfortable. Sit in a comfortable way. Maybe lean your arm on that place or on that thing, or maybe sit a certain type of way. And then that way, if they're comfortable sitting, it's gonna show in their photo, versus like you telling them to put their arm up a certain way or shoulder up a certain way. So as Jess was already kind of sitting and getting comfortable, I was about to say something and I caught myself and I was like, oh, actually, yeah, you're perfect. Do whatever you were doing, because I know you already know how to pose. So go ahead. But I really like this image because it kind of shows off her tattoos, and it kind of, you know, the image itself looks super sweet. Like it shows kind of like, you know, she's kind and she's, you know, playful with the camera, but also shows like, oh, but I'm also kind of edgy with the tattoos. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. And I've been growing up in Hawaii, you don't ever notice coconut trees because they're kind of everywhere. But recently there's this demon bug that is coming to Kauai and is eating all these coconut trees. It's called the rhino beetle. First of all, rhino beetle, if you're watching, you can go straight to hell. We hate you. But yeah, they are eating these coconut trees. So I hope to God that these coconut trees that are here at this beach will not be taken down because of these godforsaken beetles called rhino beetles. I hope that they get exterminated, crushed, and sent to hell by the time this video gets released. But anyway, I told Jess to basically run run on the lawn, which is super awkward, right? Like, oh, just run towards me. I'll take your photo. But she kind of already knew the vibe. If she was someone that never really, I guess, took photos before, she would have probably been like, oh, you want me to just run towards you? Okay, that's weird. Because we as photographers kind of ask clients to do that all the time. Can you please, like, we want motion, we want movement. But she already knew what the drill was. So I just easily said, can you go over there and just run towards me and look cute? And she did that perfectly. Okay, so when I'm shooting these photos, they are on my Pentax 645. And the thing about this camera is that there's only autofocus in the center of the image. So whatever the center is, that's where the autofocus is gonna lock onto. I love this camera so much, but the problem with this camera is that it only focuses on the center. So if you have an object or a subject that is coming towards you, it's like you have to either plan for that subject to come into like the focus area, or you have to just leave that subject in the center of the image. Because when I'm looking at this photo now, I'm thinking, I don't like this dead center image of the subject in the middle. I wish she was either like more in the bottom of the image or kind of up higher up top, but I think it'd have been better if she was kind of lower of the image, but it would have been hard because again, I'm focusing the camera in the center only. So I don't know. I think next time what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna focus on a piece of the grass where she's gonna run up towards, and then lift my camera up and put it on manual focus. And by the time that she runs to that focused area, then I press the shutter. So there's all these like little things you have to kind of adjust for when you're shooting with these older cameras, which I kind of love. It kind of adds character, makes it fun, I guess. So the next image that we made was next to a canoe. And I like how the colors of the canoe is the same colors of her skin and of her shirt. There's also, I think, I don't know the name of the rule, but the rule of thirds maybe, I'm not too sure. But in images, it's, or I guess for me, I don't even know if this was is a rule or not, but I like taking images where there are 3 types of things in the image. Here, there's 3 different things going on. It's the subject, it's Jess, it's the camera, and it's the canoe. I don't know, it kind of adds some type of character to the image. I don't know why, but whenever I see 3 things in the environment, I like to take that photo. I don't know, I just for some reason think 3s go really well. So here we have the canoe, the camera, and Jess. And they're almost like perfectly spaced out from one another. Like the space between Jess and the camera is the exact same space between the camera and the canoe. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's those little things that I'm like, oh, that might be a cool shot. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe I'm just an idiot that's like, what are you talking about? You're so dumb. I don't care. I'm having fun and I think it's working. I don't know. Maybe it's not working. I don't care. I'm still having fun. But another thing though I like about this photo is the leading line. And you see there's a leading line of the mountain leading right to her head. So I actually like kind of moved just so slightly, so like the tip of the mountain is like at the tip of her head. One thing though that I wish I did was move the camera up higher, because here you see the horizon line is cutting her head. It's like going right to her head. I should have moved the camera up a little bit higher so the horizon was just above her head, so it wasn't cutting her head off. So we then moved kind of onto the beach and we took a few photos on the beach. And then Jess went ahead and stepped on the rocks of the beach and took photos. This is lava rock on the beach. This is not coral. Okay, so if you're coming to Kauai or Hawaii and you're going to take photos on the rocks on the beach, there's a difference between lava rock, which this is lava rock, and actual coral and reef, which is alive. So if you catch yourself on the north shore of Kauai and you're trying to stand on rocks like this, thinking that it's just lava rock, you are wrong. Get off of the reef. Don't walk on the reef in Hawaii. Okay, now that I got that off my chest, we are standing on lava rock here, not live coral or live reef, okay? I hate to speak down on people, but get the frick off our reef. Don't walk on the reef, especially on the North Shore. Okay. Never mind. Okay, back to the photo here. So yeah, we're taking photos on the lava rock here, and Jess kind of jumps off, and I thought we were done, and she jumps off, and immediately I go, okay, go back on there and jump off again, because just the way that she jumped off was just like was perfect. So I decided to capture that. And if you notice in this photo, I'm using the rule of thirds here. So she is like on the left side, like not centered, and kind of like on the top part of the frame. Okay, and the next photo that we took was right there on the sand. And a good thing, and one of the things that I like to do when taking photos of people like in the sun, is I use my hand to kind of like see the shadows and the highlights. Even like when I'm doing it right now with this light, I can kind of see like you can't see it, I don't think, but I can see like the highlights and shadows when I move my hand. And so before I took this photo, I kind of did that, and I kind of like saw, okay, the highlights are right there. And what I like to do when I'm taking black and white photos is kind of angle them in such a way that like half of their face is lit and the other half is like in shadow. And that kind of adds drama to the image. And I like how this image really turned out, because you can kind of see there's like highlights on the right side of her or the left side of her, depending on what you want to say. But when I'm looking at her, like the left side is kind of lit and kind of in highlights, and then the right side is kind of like behind shadows. And I love how the mountain behind her is all in shadow, which kind of, I guess, she kind of pops out here, especially when the background is in shadow, which is those mountains. After we took photos there on the beach, we decided to drive down to another location. And I think this was very meaningful for me to shoot in this area, because I kind of grew up paddling at this local canoe club called Kaiola, and which was like right there. So when I got to this area, it's been years since I've been here, maybe decades. And it brought up all these types of like fun memories as a kid when I used to paddle canoe there. So this image here, I took both portrait and landscape mode. Sometimes I don't know what is better, so I take them both. I take portrait and landscape, and I don't know. You can tell me in the comments which one you like better, but I think I like it landscape mode better. I think the landscape mode kind of shows the environment more, but in the portrait mode, I think there's better leading lines, like the lines of the road kind of goes right towards her again. Again, leading lines is one of my favorite things. And in the portrait photo here, she is kind of dead center in the photo. Again, I don't really like shooting dead center, but here it just worked with the leading lines and even with the mountain. I even like how the mountain has like the peak right above her. There's just so much like symmetry going on here that I love. Some photos that I didn't like is kind of her far in the distance. I kind of like photos that show like the size of the environment versus the subject. And here I was trying to do that, but it just didn't work. I don't know why. It's just not something that I'm proud of. Yeah, it shows like her size amongst the huge mountains, but I don't know, there's something about these images that just kind of don't work. But this one kind of does work, I think. I don't know, I think because she is kind of off-centered here, and again, there are lines here. You see, there's a pattern with my work. I like to use lines. The lines of the mountain going down towards her, and the lines of the road leading up towards her. Even the lines of like the rest of the roadway is kind of going towards her, and it's just everything's kind of leaning towards her. And in this image, it's showing like the perspective of like how small she is in comparison to like the environment, which is this huge, beautiful mountain and even the sea. Another photo that I really like is this photo here, where she is kind of looking at her camera. And in this image, there are lines in this image. And the lines don't actually point to her now, but you can see that there are lines in the background and the line of the plane that she's standing on. So we have all these types of like straight lines, which it's kind of weird when you have straight lines, especially in like nature, because in nature you don't really have straight lines. So you can kind of see like the lines here are kind of man-made. It looks like nature, but it's man-made. That road is kind of man-made, but the mountain obviously is not man-made, and so you can kind of see it's not a straight line. You know, it kind of captures her in like a peaceful moment of her like enjoying her time with her camera. I like how the highlights and the shadows kind of worked really well here, especially how the sun is like kind of directly above that mountain, which kind of gives super high highlights and super dark shadows. And she is kind of in like the medium range between dark and light, so she kind of stands out as like the main subject. And the last photo that I'm going to talk about is this one here, and I really like this photo because it is portraits of a photographer, so I had to get a portrait of her with her camera. And again, I used the method of my hand to like angle it in the light so that half of her face is like in highlights and half of her face is in shadows. And this photo worked out perfect because again, that mountain is in shadow, so that she, as the main subject, is going to be popping since she is in direct sunlight. Not a lot of people like shooting in direct sunlight, but sometimes when you're shooting black and white, it just works really well because you have really high highlights and really dark shadows, and it just kind of adds depth to the image. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Portraits of Photographers on Film, highlighting the photographer Jess. Next week are going to be another set of photographers taken on black and white film, and I'll see you next time.